Okay. So the first thing I want to do, and again, if you don't have this software, you go looking for it and you realize you don't have it, just let me know. I've got a couple of hard drives right here that I can give it to you really quickly and you can download it. But at any rate, if you look at inside the folder of software that I asked you to download, and you did do the install, for what we're looking for in your application folder is this color checker camera calibration app. If everybody can look for that and find it and go ahead and launch it. I'm also going to launch Photoshop. Yes. So here, hang on one second. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do with this file is that we're going to build two different kinds of profiles for this. One of them is a DNG profile. It's what you use in Lightroom and in Photoshop. The other will be an ICC profile, which is what you'll use in Capture One. Sadly, those things are not interchangeable. The DNG only will work in Photoshop and Lightroom. And the ICC profile will not work in any of the Adobe products, but it will work in a whole lot of other products. So Capture One supports ICC profiles. There are other developers out there that will do that. But at any rate, these are really the only two profiles that you'll need. So to start this process, we actually have to create a DNG of this file first. So to do that, you want to launch this into Photoshop. So I have multiple versions of Photoshop on my computer, so if I just double click, it's going to open up in a beta version. I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to right click or control click on this and say open with, and I'm going to open it with Adobe Photoshop 2025. And it should open up into Camera Raw for you just like this. So guys, I need you, if I'm showing you this and you're not seeing this or it's not working for you, stop me, because if you don't get these, anything that we pretty much do today, if you miss a step, then everything else is going to be meaningless to you. So stop me. If you did not just double click on this file and go into Camera Raw, you need to let me know. It's fine. All right, are we good? Okay, so we just want to make a DNG out of this. We don't need to color balance. We don't need to do anything in here. What you do need to do is you need to know that there is already a profile that is going to be applied to this DNG. We don't have a custom profile yet, so this is, once we make it, this is where you'll use it. But starting out, we are going to have to build a DNG that does not have your custom profile in it, which is okay. Anyway, so you're going to come up to the little, up in the top right-hand corner. There's a, yes?
Sorry, mine doesn't say that. It says the name of the file.
Oh, it doesn't matter what the profile says now, because we're going to throw it away anyway. Yeah, throw it away. Okay, so to do this, use this. There is an icon at the top right-hand corner that's a little box with an arrow pointing straight down, and if you click on that, it'll open up another box that gives you save as options. So this allows you to build other flavors of your file. So you can build a DNG of your file here. You could build, well, if you take a look at the file extension drop-downs, you can do all of these files. You can build a JPEG, or you can build a PSD. You can build, anyway, you can pick anything in here. And you simply change it by picking the extension of it. Now in our case, DNG is what we want. If you've never opened up this dialog yet, up here at the very top, it'll say save in same location. All that means is it's going to put this DNG file right next to the CR2 file that you just launched in here to do this. If you wanted to put it somewhere else, you could click on select folder and move it somewhere else, but we don't. The rest of this you can leave pretty much just as it is, blank, and then just hit the word save. And down here you'll see, if you do, you can do hundreds of these at a time. If you do them, there's a little bar, a progression bar that you'll see that'll run down along the bottom until, and showing you how long it's going to take before your process is over. So we've done the DNG that we need to right now. So you can simply hit done. You don't need to hit cancel. You don't need to hit open. We're not going to open this up in Photoshop. And then you need to navigate back to the folder where we just did that from. And you can see right here, there is this CR2 file. There's a DNG file next to it. And you may or may not have an XMP file next to this. If you have it, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. I'm going to throw mine away just because I don't like garbage in my computer. I like to do some housekeeping. So this DNG is the first thing that we are going to work with. So if you haven't opened it already, I need you to go to your application folder, and you need to find this color checker camera calibration app. So in Macintosh, it's in your app folder, color checker camera calibration. If you're on Windows, just do, you guys have a much easier search box to find stuff than we do. Just do a search for color checker camera calibration. It's not the setup app, it's just the regular app. And launch this guy. So I've already launched mine, and it looks like this. This is what your screen should look like. So does everybody have this screen up? Okay, we need to have a quick conversation about profiles and what they really mean and what they really do. So what happens is that every sensor that's made in the world has bias. There is no such thing as a perfectly neutral, true, honest sensor. They all skew in all different directions. And I know if you guys have ever seen a wall of TVs, like in a Home Depot or in a Best Buy or all that, all of the colors kind of the same, but it's all slightly different as well. That's bias. That's the same bias that we're talking about. So the reason we build these profiles is to remove the bias. And if we are successful in doing that, I can shoot a picture of a scene with my camera, and you can shoot a picture of that same scene with your camera. And if we both run it through our respective profiles for our cameras, all of the bias of both cameras will be removed. And then when we look at those files together in Photoshop or in anything online, whatever, they will look the same. Does that make sense what the goal in all of this is? Are there questions about any of that part? We're trying to get to true color. We're trying to get to unbiased color. That's the goal in all of this. And so it may seem a little onerous to go through this in the beginning, but once you get this set up, it'll change everything for you. So at any rate, the bias that exists in your sensor is pretty fixed. So it doesn't necessarily completely depend on the light that you're shooting under, but the light that you're shooting under can have a minimal impact on the bias of your sensor. So what I do is I create a new custom profile for every sensor/shooting that I'm doing. So if I come into the studio, I have a 5D Mark IV and I have a 5D Mark III. They have their own profiles. They're not interchangeable. When I go to do a shoot in the studio, I'll set up my lighting situation and I'll actually shoot a card with it. I will create a profile of that shooting and I'll name it after that shooting because it is more precise than I can just using a more generic version of a profile that we're going to make. So in this case, you can see here there's a DNG, but there's also a dual illuminate DNG. What these are both designed to do is to create a profile for a specific situation. The dual illuminate, you actually shoot a picture of your color card using daylight, and you shoot another picture using your color card using tungsten light. And because those are, I mean, you guys saw this last week, those are radically different color temperatures. They affect the bias a little bit. But at any rate, I don't do the dual illuminate part because I do one for every lighting situation that I'm in. Now, if I'm in the studio and I don't change my lighting, it stays the same for a week or 2 weeks, whatever, I use that same profile for all 2 weeks. But if I go in and fundamentally change the lighting, I will generate a separate profile for whatever that new lighting scenario is. So if you cannot get a color card into a scene that you're actually shooting, but you have shot something with, you're shooting something with a camera, you do have a profile of your sensor, you're still better off using that than nothing at all, or using any of the canned ones that Adobe provides. So is this kind of making sense? A sensor profile that you make, no matter what the illumination is, will be 85, 90% of the way correcting for your bias. But if you want that extra 10%, you have got to do your sensor in combination with the lighting scenario that you are using.
Do you wait until after you're done shooting to do that, or do you do it after like the?
So for me, when because I'm always tethered, I never shoot untethered ever. I'm always using a color card to set my exposure at the very beginning. So I've got hundreds of copies of my color card. So that's never a problem for me. Okay, so to use this thing, you actually, if you can find your DNG file, you can do a drag and drop. You simply drag and drop it onto this screen right here. If your file is buried too deep or you want to look at it a different way, simply come up to the file menu and do add image. But in my case, I can find it right here. So I'm going to grab my DNG, not the CR2, but the DNG, and just drag it on top of this. And then go into the program. It says it is loading my image. And if you're lucky, it will find your image. Now, if it doesn't find your image, you can use these controls over here to go look for your image. So the magnifying glass will zoom you in or out. This tool up at the very top allows you to move this grid. So you can see there's this green grid on top of your image. They have control points in the corner. So if you grab this like top control point, you'll see you can move the grid around. If you do move your grid, you want to make sure that it stays inside this, these target color areas. You don't want, if one of these squares actually touches the black, your profile will be invalid. If, God forbid, it crosses into another color, your profile will be really invalid. So, but anyway, it usually does a good job of finding this part. Now, at this stage of the game, I am going to go back to my Finder. I'm not going to say save in this yet. I'm going to go back to my Finder. So I'm going to name my profile after this shooting. Now, we've talked about how you name shootings. What can you guys tell me about this shooting right here, about just looking at the name? Can you tell me when I shot it? When? 2011. When in 2011? What day? Right. Right? So I know all about that. And then you can see the next code, COL. What could that possibly stand for? It does. And then the underscore fashion, what would that mean? This is my fashion class. Can you tell me the same amount of information from the files that you use when you go, I don't know, flowers? That's your file name? No. So at any rate, I'm going to copy this name because I don't name my profiles after my sensor, which is what this program is set up to do. I name it after the shoot. That's what's important to me. So if you just hit the return key on the name, it will select everything except for the extension. Command C will copy that, Control C on a Windows machine, or go up to the edit menu and do copy. And then we're going to go back into this color camera check calibration software, and I'm going to hit create profile. So it's going to say, okay, well, we're going to name this, and this is where we're going to put it. So the name that they want to give it is the name of the camera sensor that I was using, but that doesn't do me any good. If you have two 5D Mark IVs or two 5D Mark IIIs or whatever, you can't use the profiles interchangeably. You would have to, if you want to use the sensor name, you've got to use some way to ID your camera, most likely the serial number of your camera if you're doing multiple versions of this. But I don't care about the camera sensor. I care about the shooting situation that I'm doing, and that's why I copied that name. So with this selected, depending on the version of software that you're working on, you can't just paste over this. So if I do Command V to paste, it actually let me do that. I'm going to hit Command Z. Older versions do not let you do that. So if that's the case with yours, if you couldn't just paste in that name, you can get rid of this name by simply hitting the delete key. And then on a Macintosh, you would use your Control key and a mouse down. You will get a drop-down menu and you can do a paste. On Windows, it's just a right click. We'll give you the same thing. Do what? Yeah, what is you want it to have the extension is DCP. And then, but wait a second, Eli, because this is where it needs to go. So in your Macintosh folder, it is going to be in your user library under application support in Adobe, Camera Raw profiles. This is where it's ultimately going to go. Now the software should know where it's going to go, but Eli, it looks like yours is trying to save it somewhere else.
Yeah, in this image, camera profiles, but it's saving it in Adobe Camera Raw. It's users and then library.
Yeah, that's where it wants to. Yours, that is where it wants to go. It's in the camera profiles. That part's correct. And then the file name, you should have an extension that says .tv. Sorry. Yeah, so it's going in the right spot, and then the extension is correct now. So you're fine. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead. In my case, I have like 1 million of these. I'm going to get rid. Those last 3 numbers are a frame number. I don't really need that, but I'm going to put in mine version 1200 because that's probably about how many. You don't need to do this part. I've made so many of these. You can see I've got 3 or 4 of them are still sitting right there. Go ahead and hit save. And it says the profile has been created successfully. I'm going to say OK to that. And then you can, let's not quit this program right now because we're actually going to do this again for another setup. So you can just leave it loaded right now. However, we now actually need to use this thing. So if you come back into our setup, you have a DNG that we made of it. This is the DNG we just used to create that profile. However, I want to create a new base file for something that I would actually work on. So as long as you are working on your computer, you're fine because the DNG profile that we just made is somewhere in your system, in your setup. It's in the libraries of your system. And as long as you're working on your machine, you're great. But if you take your file and put it on a hard drive and go to work on somebody else's machine, the profile is left behind. It's sitting back on your laptop. So when you want to go to work on it, you're going to get an error message saying that the profile can't be found. So we need to do a system that will actually embed that profile into a DNG, which will be our starting point going forward. What that means is that we need to throw away this DNG that we just made because the profile that when we made this thing, the profile that was picked, in my case it was camera standard, other people had a different version, whatever, that profile is embedded in this DNG, not our custom one. And we can go in and try to change it, but you cannot say, once this DNG has been made, it is a raw file, you cannot edit it, you can't change it. So that profile that was embedded in it in the beginning is worthless to us. So you want to throw this one away. So I'm just going to get rid of that DNG, and then I'm going to launch Photoshop again, not beta. And now we're going to use this profile. So our first move in using this thing is that you need to profiles used to be buried really deep inside of this. They've made it, it's become so important, it's now the #1 thing that you do other than auto, black and white, or HDR. So in this drop-down menu, if you click on it, you can come down and you'll see that there's a drop-down menu here. These are some canned profiles that Adobe has made. There's also a browse button down here at the very bottom. I simply prefer to hit this icon that's to the right of that. That is also the browse profiles. But what I like about this is that it opens up a window and it gives me ideas of what my profiles are in a little bit bigger scale. Now, I don't want you to select any of these profiles, but if you hover over them, you'll see that your image changes dramatically. These are all canned profiles that Adobe has made. If we want to get to the one that you made that's actually based on the camera that shot this and this lighting scenario, you open up this profiles under at the very bottom, not the very bottom, but the part that's underneath this right here. It just says profiles. Click this to open up, and inside here you will actually see the profile that you just made. And I'm going to look for mine. This is mine right here, my version 1200. So I'm going to, can everybody find their custom profile? All right, simply click on it. Now, I want you to actually come up, and we've actually now selected this. I'm going to zoom in on mine just a second here. Sorry. I'm going to go back to my original. I'm going to go back and forth. This was the original right here. That's my profile. That's my color. That's my custom profile. Look at the difference. Are you kidding me? How the hell can you expect to have a true authentic color when it starts out, this is what you get, this is what Adobe thinks you should be working with, and this is what we've actually measured out. If you look at the blue patches on my color card right here, when I go over these two, so again, this is what Adobe thinks, this is what my profile is saying. What's happening is that you'll see that the blues get darker in the correct version of it. What that tells me is that my sensor is biased to blue. It's too sensitive to blue. So it thinks it's recording more blue than should be in this image. But there is no way for you to go in and know that and look at anything on this and say, now I haven't white balanced this thing. This is white balance is a completely different animal. So at any rate, yes? I'm going to show you right now. So then come up, when you have the profile selected that applied that you want, so again, the custom one is picked, come up right underneath your histogram to the little back arrow and go back, and you'll see your profile is sitting right here, your custom profile. But then we're going to white balance this thing. Click on the white balancing tool right here. It's the little eyedropper here next to color. You may have to open up the color tab if it's color palette if it's closed. Pick on the eyedropper, and then again, I use the gray patch that's right next to the red. You don't want to do white balancing, ironically, on the white patch. You also don't want to do it on the gray patch. The reason you don't want to do it here on the white patch is that it's trying to do a color correction at the very top end of your tonal range, and that's really, really, really difficult to do. It skews up the highlights awfully if there's a problem that's down in this area. You also don't want to do it down in the darker gray areas right here because you don't see color casting in darker grays. You see color casting in your midtones and especially your quarter tones and highlights. So this thing right here in the middle is the sweet spot, and it's what you want to click on. And when you do that, if you look up at your histogram readout, just like we do with in Capture One, you will actually see that it neutralizes all of those colors out. So my red, green, and blue values are all identical. That is what white balancing is. So now I've done two things. I've got a profile that's actually removed the bias of my sensor and the lighting situation, and I've also white balanced my image right now. Yes?
When I'm clicking on the passport, it's giving like three different values, the three different like balance settings. They're only off by like 2 or 3.
Are you reading this stuff right over here?
Yeah.
Oh, don't ignore that. All you care about is the values that are reading at the very top. Is that a neutral gray? Yeah, Rahima? Yeah. You're actually in Photoshop. You can't be in Photoshop if you get camera wrong. All of this is in camera wrong. No, sorry. Just go back to Photoshop. It looks like smart. Yeah, this looks like smart. Double click on that. Yeah. Okay, guys, sorry, back at it. Okay, so this has been white balanced. I've got my custom profile in here, but before you do anything else, because guys, hey, focus. What we're going to do now is we are going to generate a new raw file. But the thing you need to keep in mind about this, that how many people in here can tell me, name a program that you can use to edit a raw file? Photoshop, anything else? Say what? Capture One, what else? Lightroom, what else? The 15 versions of Lightroom. Yeah, we'll just count that as the big Lightroom umbrella. Possibly, right? You know, again, you are all 100% wrong. No, this matters, because this is exactly the problem, because this is going to bite you in the ass if you don't like follow this logic. So when Adobe invented raw files, actually every raw file that you use, every single one of them is really a TIFF file that has a special header put in it for the company that owns it. So it's Canon file is a TIFF file that's got a Canon header in it. Nikon is a TIFF file that's got a header in it. I mean, that's all they are. But Adobe controls them all. Do you know that every single picture you take, Adobe gets paid for? Now you would think, how the hell do they know that? The way they know that is that when Canon wants to sell one of their cameras, they guess how many times that shutter can fire. In a 5D Mark II, it's about 200,000 times before it dies. And so that's considered that's the lifespan of your camera. And so they have to pay Adobe, it's a fraction of a cent, but they have to pay Adobe every single sensor that is sold that can capture 200 captures. They have to pay Adobe a royalty, a fee to actually do that, because Adobe invented the file that they all use.
How is it different than a TIFF file?
Because it has a special header in it that is controlled by the camera companies.
So it's not different in like...
Oh, no, it has also all the raw data in it. A TIFF file is baked. This is a holder. So, but the thing that matters here is that, so when Adobe first came out with this, they were all excited about it until law enforcement came to them and said, absolutely not. We will never use digital because you can fake digital stuff. I can take my head and put it on your body and you look like the murderer in the scene, whatever. I can go in and manipulate the room. I can do all of that stuff. No way. We will not do that. We will not support this. And Adobe said to them, okay, we'll do this. We will build a file that if anybody goes in and touches any part of the file, it self-destructs. So there is no program, there's no illegal program that you can go in and modify a raw file in. It's not possible to do. Even Adobe can't do it. Because inherently the way it's designed, if they do, they can get in there. But if they make any change, the file self-destructs. So what we are doing here now is we are getting ready to build a raw file. Everything that we've got set up will be a part of that raw file. That's why we threw away the last one, because the last one's profile that was built into it is wrong. It's not changeable. This one will have the correct profile in it. So now I'm simply going to click on that same little box with the down arrow and save this. And what I've done now is I have created a DNG that has got the profile for this camera and this lighting situation embedded in it, and that will never go away. I can trade this file with somebody else and it will be just fine. Make sense? All right, so that's the first version. Now the second version, we actually need to do something else. You can go back to our DNG profile editor. You can quit this guy. So, I'm sorry, I'm in Camera Raw. You can simply hit done. It's already built the profile. But I want to go back to the DNG profile editor, and we need to, the color checker, we need to quit this because we need to build a different version of this file in order to create the ICC profile. So at this point, I'm going to say it's a great time to take a break. So I'm going to go ahead and quit my color calibration software. I'm going to pause the video, and I need Okay, so I need everyone to launch Capture One right now. To build the ICC profile that we need to use in Capture One, you need to start inside of Capture One. So go ahead and launch Capture One, please. I'm sorry, you're what? Oh, no, it's the latest. I have an older version, somewhat older version.
Are we starting a new session?
We're one step at a time. Okay, we're going to take it from the top. Okay. So I just need to make sure everybody has Capture One going. You don't need to have the mannequin in yours. Just is Capture One up and running? Okay. Everybody good on this part? All right, so we're going to start from scratch. We're going to do a little bit of exploring Capture One. We're going to do the custom profile part, and then we're going to come back and deal with Capture One in a sort of like deal with a little bit more of its interface and that kind of stuff. So I want to start out with this first folder over here. If you take a look, these are sets of panes that you actually have, palettes really, that you have that control different things. So if we start on the far left-hand side, the library is one that's on by default. The one that's next to it, depending on how you've got yours set up, is the tether part. So this is all camera connection, camera control, naming, all of that kind of stuff. Shape, as we continue to go over, is about keystoning and that sort of thing, whatever. Styles we'll look about and talk about later. Adjustment menu is actually one that's a little bit more important. This is where you would do your white balancing, your exposure. This is the equivalent of really what's inside of Camera Raw on the Adobe side of it all. And then you'll see on my case, I've got two little arrows here. If you click on those, that'll also tell you, you've got two more in here. I've got a refine menu or a refine palette and a metadata one. So that's basically what's going on in here. You can have different setups for different things. If you come up to your Windows menu right here down to workspaces, you can see that there's a whole bunch of different workspaces that exist for Capture One. You can actually create your own. So if anybody who's been in this class, in my retouching class, know I use custom workspaces all the time. I certainly use them for Photoshop. So all these things do is just rearrange the tools that are available to you. But if you want to start where everybody else should basically be starting, you would simply come down to the default workspace. And that's what I'm in right now. And so then I'm going to start by default. The library is all the way over to the left-hand side. If you click on the library, you will actually see we need to actually get a session open. So let's create a brand new session before we actually talk about any of this stuff underneath it. So to create a brand new session, there's two ways of going about it. The first is you can actually come up to the File menu and you can come down to New Session. You'll notice that in this UI, this is a pet peeve of mine that I've raged on the Capture One people for 15 years now. And I do it for every class, so I don't want you guys to feel left out, so here's my rage. New catalog is at the top followed by a new session, right? So that's one way of doing it. If you also click on this little plus that's up at the top and you click on that, you will get a drop down. You'll see you have new session or new catalog in the exact reverse order. Why would you do that? That confuses people. Yes. Okay. So here's the deal. A lot of you guys work in Lightroom, and that's a fine thing for when you're here in art school and that kind of stuff. But if you do go pro, if you are out in the real world, you're shooting for a whole cornucopia of clients. One day I'm shooting for Neiman Marcus, the next day I'm shooting for Saks. It's never the same. I do not want to have all of those images put together in one giant catalog that then I have to export shit out of. It's just a nightmare. Nobody wants to do it that way. So pretty much everybody who shoots professionally in Capture One, and Capture One is the de facto software. 99% of the studios all over the world use this software. So again, I think I've said this to you guys before. If you can really command this software, I mean really, really, really command it, you can move anywhere in the world as long as you can speak the language. There will be a studio that you can get work at. That's pretty powerful stuff, right? That just goes to show the dominance of this. So anyway, the catalog in Capture One is the same thing. It's the same as the catalog that is in Lightroom. It's designed to hold all of your pictures, and then it has really robust database search features. So that if you do have, let's say, 20 years worth of photography and you're a landscape shooter and you want to get every image that you have that's got a stop sign in it, it's a great place to actually go to do a search for that. Sessions do not work like that at all. Sessions are discrete, separate setups for different shootings. So for me, every time I go into a job, if it's a one-day job, there's a session that's built for that day. If it's a one-week job and it's all the same client and it's just going to be 5 days instead of 1 day, it's still going to be only one session. But when I move from one client to the next, even if it's one in the morning and another one in the afternoon, it is a completely different session. So these things are separated. They're all apart. So strategically, what some people will do to get both of these bangs for your buck is everybody shoots to sessions first, and then you import your sessions into your catalog to make it all searchable. You still would keep both sets of files discretely separate. You would never get rid of your sessions. But if you import all of that information into your catalog, then you can have a searchable catalog of 20 years worth of photography, but still have this set up as for individual situations. Make sense? Okay, so we are going to do a new session for this. Dialog opens up, and we're going to name it after today. So I'm going to do 20251017 underscore. And then again, we can do something fake here. We can do it, for our class. So I'm going to do COL for Columbia, another underscore, and then I'm just going to do C1 demo, or C1P demo. So C1P DEMO. Then where do we put this? You always put this in your pictures folder or someplace other than your desktop. The reason you don't want to put this stuff in your desktop is that your desktop is a database space. Every time there is a single change to your desktop, every single file, listen to me carefully, every single file on that desktop has to be re-indexed. So if you've got a folder on there that's got 5,000 pictures in it, that's where you keep your Lightroom library, whatever. Every single time, if you shoot tethered, I'm going to make one click. All 5,000 of those pictures have to be re-indexed. When I hit the click shutter button again, all 5,000 get re-indexed again. And it makes your session, your shooting session, incredibly slow. Yes?
If we're working on these computers, would we put this on like a hard drive?
So I'm getting there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, you're fine. So a lot of people then will do this. They will actually plug in a hard drive and they will shoot to the hard drive. The problem that you have with the hard drive, everybody look at me really quickly because I'm going to show you a USB cable. This cable is incredibly slow. The hard drive that is in your computer is connected directly to the circuit board. It's 1,000 times faster transfer than this, and this is USB 4. This is speedy, but what's in your computer is the fastest of all. You should always shoot to your internal hard drive and then copy to an external hard drive as your backup or as your takeaway. Yes?
When you get to the picture folder,
I only use the pictures folder because it makes sense.
well, how do you get to that?
Oh, if you don't, so I'm getting there. So again, we've got our name done correctly, right? Right underneath it in location, you click on these little 3 dots and it will open up a window and you should be able to navigate to your pictures folder and select it. If you don't have a pictures folder, in the search bar, type in pictures. Did it work? Okay. So yeah, anyway, I'm going to do mine in my pictures folder. I'm just going to say choose. And then again, you do not want to select open in a new window here. The reason that you don't want to select open in a new window is that your camera can only connect to one window in Capture One. If you shoot. No, this is going to take care of it all for you. You'll see. You don't want to actually open a new window because your camera can only connect to one window, and this has happened to me, so I just know that this can be incredibly frustrating. Right now, let's say I have a camera that is connected to a session that's already open, and I open this as a new window. It will completely cover my old window, but the camera is still connected to this session in the old window that is being covered by the new session. And your camera will never connect to the new session because it's already connected to the other one that you have open. So you never want to open this in a new window. This multiple windows in Capture One for different sessions is a nightmare. This is not something to do. So do not check that and simply hit OK. So when you do that, you shouldn't have anything that you see over on this side. However, on your other side over here, the thing to realize is that in here, there's going to be a session that has been created. The fastest way to find that session, I know where mine is. So if I go down to my Finder and I click on my Pictures folder, all I need to do is sort this, sort by name. And the one at the very bottom that has a number is exactly going to be my shooting because this is now in chronological order. You can see this is a small snapshot of what the terabytes of hard drives I have in my office look like. They are just thousands of these, all in perfect chronological order because I've never changed my method right here. So I always know it's this one right down here at the bottom. It's the last one I made. It's the one I'm working on. It's just an easy way to get to it. If you go back into Capture One, which I need everyone to do, I want you to hold down your Control key. If you're on Windows, it's the Command. On a Macintosh, it's Control. On Windows, it's just a right-click. Hold it over the Capture folder and click, and you will get a flyout menu. Capture One is full of flyout menus. When you do that, you can say to Capture One, "Show me this file in the Finder." And let go, and it will show you the capture file that is inside the Pictures folder that is inside the session that has been given this long name. So the long name that we put in is the name of the session. Inside that folder, there is a capture folder, there is an output folder, there's a select folder, and there's a trash. There's also a preference file that sits up here at the top. This preference file controls everything about how this session is worked. It'll maintain everything about your screen, about what you've selected, all changes that you've made in here. It records everything. Yes?
In a situation where you're downloading something off the hard drive after and you only download the file, when you say show in Finder and it has the captured outputs,
Right.
and then the first file, capture one, can go next to it.
Right.
If you only download that without the capture outputs and selects folder, can you re-get those later if you like export? Does that make sense?
Yeah, you don't want to be exporting anything. So if you need a copy of your raw files, you do not export. There's no exporting that goes out of Capture One itself except for developing files, baking a file. If you want to create a TIFF file or you want to create a JPEG or you want to bake the file, you want to actually, then you do an export here. Other than that, because we are shooting in sessions, you don't. If you are in a catalog, you have to do an export because all of your raw files are sucked up inside that catalog. But in our case, that is not what's happening here. All of our raw files sit in this folder. So again, if you hover over the capture folder, Control, click, show me this in the Finder. If you wanted to copy this session, you would copy this entire folder right here. That's everything. It's not just when I say it's everything, If you actually did create JPEGs, those would go in the output folder here. If you actually threw stuff away, that would still be in your trash. Throwing away in Capture One is a two-step process. It's not immediate. So if you throw stuff away, it goes into this folder and stays there forever until you go into that folder and throw it away. Sierra?
I'm not sure if I'm thinking ahead, but if you create folders within the session, like say you're doing different shots.
We're getting there. Yeah. No, but I like the way you think. Okay. The thing that you need to realize about this, though, is that these capture folders are aliases to stuff that's on the outside. It's set up by default this way to actually have these things really be inside this folder, inside this session, to be the capture folder inside of there. But you can make other things. You can make other things a capture folder, and we will look at that in just a second. So anyway, the last thing that I do when I set up here, or in this whole first setup process that you should be aware of, is that you immediately need to go to your tether. And in your tether section here, the reason you want to go here is that it matters, the capture naming of this matters. And so if you open up your next capture naming, because you don't want to start shooting until you've got the naming part actually worked out. So if we come over to the next capture naming, click on, there's a little drop down, the little arrow that's right next to it to open this thing up. You'll see that inside here in the format, it says name followed by camera counter followed by a menu that's got a little icon with a little 3 dots on that. We need to change this. The camera counter is actually the shutter count of your camera. So under the hood, when you use your camera counter, it can actually start with number 15,910. It's just how many captures have happened with your shutter. It's not a viable counter for us. So we need to change this. Click on the little 3 dots. It'll open up the naming format window. In the naming format window, you have a whole group of things down here called tokens. These things really matter to us. We use these. We never use this camera counter here, so you can type directly into this bar up here in the top in terms of format. Hit the delete key to get rid of your camera counter. I'm going to add an underscore underneath that. Then we're going to get tricky here. This is a setup for exactly what Sierra was just talking about, a session where we're doing multiple images, multiple shots throughout the day. So for instance, I'm a fashion shooter. I typically have 15 to 20 outfits that I need to shoot in a day. I don't want to make 15 or 20 different sessions. I want to actually have them, though, in subfolders all within one session, and I'll show you how to do that. But you can use this capture naming token system to actually relabel your files based on the subfolder that we're going to shoot to. So we're going to go ahead and add that in the beginning. If you scroll down here into the D part, you will actually see destination folder name. Click it as a token and drag it up to the very top. Then click outside of this one more time, add another underscore, scroll up to the top of your tokens and grab this 1-digit counter, drag that out up to the top, and then click. It's got a drop-down menu inside of it, and change it from a single digit to 3-digit counter. So now what I've got is the name of my session followed by this destination. We're going to create subfolders. We don't have any right now. So currently the destination folder is the capture folder. That is correct. This is the sample part right here is actually live. This will give you exactly what you need to see. The IIQ, that it's the extension on the end, is just a raw file for Capture One. So if you're shooting a Canon, it'll end up being named CR2. If you're doing a Nikon, it'll be NEF. If you're doing a Sony, it'll be is it ARW or AWR? ARW, yeah, whatever. If you're doing Fuji, I don't know what Fuji's is, but anyway, this is just realize that that's going to go on, and then simply say OK. And now over in your capture folder, you will actually see what the name is going to be of my file, and then this is the sample setting that's sitting right here. If your sample is truncated, like mine is, just hold your cursor over it, and you'll get a little flyout menu that shows you what the complete naming convention of this thing is going to be. So this part's actually good. However, I need to then work with that file that we just were working with earlier, that CR2 file. So there's two ways that we can do this. If you click on the import button up at the very top, it will open up the import dialog, and here you can go in and say, where do you want to actually import this to? Well, I want to bring it into the session, all this blah, 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 blah. This to me is too much work. So I'm going to bail on this right now. We'll look at this in different, probably next week, because I don't think we're going to get through everything we want to do this week here. We'll look at that. Instead, this is how I do it. I'm going to go back to my library. I'm going to hover over the capture folder, hold down my control key, or again, right click, however you get a right click. If you're on a trackpad on a Macintosh laptop, I think it's a 2-finger swipe will give you a right click. Go to this drop-down menu and say, show me this in the Finder. And it will show it to you in the Finder. And then while I'm also in the Finder, this is my capture folder right here. I need to go find that file, that CR2 file with the girl standing there holding the card. I need to find that file, and I need to drag it into this capture folder. So I'm going to go to Columbia, Assistant Digital Teching, the Assistant class, the DNG sample file, and I'm going to drag this CR2 file into my capture folder. Now, I don't want to move it out of the DNG example where it is right now. I want to make a copy of it. So on Macintosh, before you let go, hold down the Option key and you'll get a little plus. And then you can just say. Otherwise, you can actually do copy and paste, but nonetheless, I'm just put it in here. And then I'm going to go back into Capture One. And back here in Capture One, you will see it's right here. Yes. Say what? Okay, so you have your capture folders right here. Perfect. So you need to go find that file. So wherever that file was, I think we put it on your desktop. So I just want to show you desktop. Find it. And whatever you find, you're going to hide others. Just stuff out of the way. And then keep these ones. Okay, somewhere we put that out. It's this guy right here. Drag that guy into your capture folder. And then go back to capture one. You need to click on the capture folder. Yeah. But that's not the file. Oh, you're doing your own file. Yeah, I'm smart. Okay, guys, wait. So, this happens to people a lot. So we've just done that whole import part, right? But I'm going to actually just try to click out of here so I don't have anything selected in here. So I'm back on my library. I don't have anything in here. You see no images. You have to select the capture folder. This viewer over here is whatever folder you have open. So you need to select this guy. If you did not see that image, it's because you have not selected the capture folder to show you your captures. So can everybody see this thing now? Okay, are we good on this? All right, so I'm going to show you, there is a PDF that explains this whole process. So if you take a look at your installers in the DNG example, nope. It'll be on our website. I'll find it. I don't want to waste our time doing this right now. But there is a PDF that explains this whole process, how to do this. The next thing we're going to do, I've already opened mine. It's right here. I'm going to make mine a little bit bigger, and you guys are going to do this with me. So, to do the ICC profile, not the DNG profile, that is a different animal. We're going to use the same profile, the same software to do it, but nonetheless. So, shoot the color checker classic 24 patch target. We've already got that. Import the raw file of the shot. We're importing this into Capture One. It's already there. Export the file as a TIFF setting using the below settings. Ela, did you have a hand up?
I did, the color profile for this CR2 image didn't, like, the one that we worked on in Photoshop, isn't copied over into Capture One?
No.
It's a raw file.
No. Capture One cannot use DNG profiles. It can only use ICC profiles. Okay, so we need to actually process this file as a TIFF file, but we need to do some settings first inside of Capture One. This is the whole recipe for it right here. So to do this, I'm going to actually read from this part right here. Let me just move my capture one over a little bit. Okay, so we are going to start with our base characteristics, no color correction, linear response. So come into your capture one. You need to make sure that you click on the file to make it active. And then in the tether, we'll see if it's in tether. I'm going to look down at the very bottom to see if it's down here. It's not there. I'm going to go to my adjustments. And adjustments, what I'm looking for is also not here. All right, so go back to your tether. We're going to actually add it here to your tether. So in the tether palette group, we need to add something called base characteristics. So to add a tool, you need to hover over the little icon that says tether. Again, these are all control clicks or right clicks. So in my case, it's a control click because I'm on a Mac. If you're on Windows, it's a right click. Hold down the control key, click, you'll get a drop-down menu, and you're going to add a tool. And you're going to come over to this list, and the tool that you want to add is base characteristics. And when you do that, it'll come in right here is base characteristics. So then I'm going to go back and say, okay, how did you want me to set this? No color correction is my ICC profile, and my curve set to linear response. So I'm going to go back into Capture One. In my drop-down menu here for ICC profile, I want to do a Show All, and then click on this again, and hopefully come down and say Nothing. It's under Effects. Yeah, I think they could have put that in the little recipe. So, under Effects, all the way down, no color correction. And then underneath that, in the curve, click on the drop-down menu and go down to Linear Response. And you can see, this is what we're basically going to start with right here. So then come back here, and we are now going to go to the Process tab, which is really now the Export tab. This thing that we're looking at is a little bit old. We're going to set it to 16-bit, uncompressed, and we are going to set it to embed the camera profile. So to do that, come over here to your, inside your Capture One setup here. I am going to click on these little three arrows right here. I want to add a tool tab to this. So the little three arrows that are up, the little three dots that are up on the right-hand side, click on this. We're going to add a tool tab, and what I want to add is the Export tab. There is an Export button up here, but it does a different set of things here. So in our Export tool tab, this is where you actually set up stuff to print. So in our case, we're going to create a new recipe. That's all these things are. To create a new recipe, you're going to click on the plus that's underneath here and say New Recipe, and we're going to name it after what we're building right here. So we are going to call this a TIFF. You good, Eli?
How did you choose the basic characteristics? Anything other than the visual text?
Yes, you need to do linear responses for sure. So, base characteristics, no, that is not, yeah, no color correction is correct. Yeah, you're good. All right. So then, little three dots, export, and then we're going to click on the plus at the bottom there to build a new recipe. So to build the new recipe, I'm going to name it after what it's going to be, and I'm going to say that this is going to be a TIFF, T-I-F-F, 16-bit. And then embedded camera profile. That way, once you have this recipe made, you don't ever have to come in and make it again. You can just pick it. You'll see I've got 2 check marks on my thing right now. This would actually, if I went ahead and hit process on this, or export as they're calling it, it would do both versions of these. I don't want to do both versions of these. I just want to do the one that I'm working on right now. So I'm going to uncheck the one that's up at the very top. If you've got any other ones checked, that's fine. Make sure that you still have got this profile selected, because we need to now edit it. So in my export location, I'm just going to leave it at its defaults. And hang on one second. Export file and format size. So you'll see there's export location, you can leave it where it is. Export name, you can leave that as it is. Export format and size, we need to change this. In your drop-down menu, make sure that you pick TIFF. In the bit depth of your image, make sure that you pick 16-bit. You do want to leave these options as uncompressed. In the ICC drop-down menu, you want to actually do a show all, and then go right back to it again, click on it again, because you'll have the whole list now. And we want to do embedded camera profile. It's up at the very top. And I think that is it. Yes, so that's actually the file that we need to then bring into that other software. So to do this, scroll to the very bottom of this screen and you will actually see an export number. There's an export button here at the very top. If you click on that, it should actually run. And I don't know if it has, so we're going to find out. Go back to your library, hover over, click on the output folder, and it actually is in there. If you want to see where your image actually is, again, in the Finder, hold down your Control key or right-click, click on this drop-down menu and say, show me this in the Finder. This is now the file that we are going to use inside the camera calibration software to create the ICC profile for this shooting to use in Capture One. So to do that, you need to launch that software again. So go to your application folder, find the color checker camera calibration software and launch it. You need to then find that file that we just made, that TIFF file. Mine's right here. Click and drag it on top. Try again. This does not look like this wants to drag and drop. Oh, thank you. Instead of doing D&G, this would help. Select the ICC TIFF all the way on the right side over here. What would I do without you guys? I've said that with all the sincerity I could come up with. Anyway, click and drag and drop here. And this will then load it, and it finds it again. I am going to then, again, copy the name of this because I don't know what else I've copied. So I'm just going to hit the return key to copy the name of my shooting. So Command C to copy it. And then I'm going to go into here and I'm going to click on Create Profile. And it's going to say, okay, where are we going to put this? And I need to make sure that this is going in the right place, and it is. So this is going into ColorSync, which is Apple's version of ICC Profile Color Management. And this is where all the profiles are. So if you do a monitor calibration, they're in here. If you do all of your paper calibration, ICC profiles are in here. This is going to go in here as well. So I'm going to, again, paste this name using the name of my shooting. So Command V makes it very long. And I'm just going to hit save. I'm sorry, hang on one second. Let me come over and take a look and see what.
Yeah, so when I hit the save ICC profile, it wants to put it in like Capture One output.
Oh, I see. No, that's not where we want to put this at all. So come down to, the easiest way to do it is to come down to, have you ever made your, I'm going to show you right here. It's going to cancel for a second right now because we're going to redo it. Okay. So if you need to, in this case, if you couldn't find this, the folder that we're looking for is actually in the user library. And on Macintoshes, you can't really get to the user library easily. So I'm going to go into my Finder. I'm going to show you how to get to your user library. And that way we'll copy it, and then it'll be easier for you to navigate to this. So anyway, let me hide everybody else in here. Let me get rid of a few windows here, just so we've got a little breathing space. Okay, so I'm going to do Command N to bring up a new window. I've got favorites that are along this side over here. This is where I put my library. But to get to your library, to actually get to it, you come up to the Go menu. If you click on your Go menu, you'll get a drop down, and you don't see library in here. You use either the Option key or the Shift key, and it will show up. So in my case, it's the Option key, and it shows up. This is the user library that's hidden from everyone. This is the only way you can get to it. So again, Option key on the Go menu. Pick library, and you will see that this opens up. This is the library right here. If you hover over the word library sort of to the left-hand side, you will see that you get a little folder icon. Click and drag that over to your favorites. And when you do that, you will end up with a library that stays in your favorites, and then this is the easiest way to get to it. And this will show up in your save dialog boxes, in your all of those, it'll show up there as well. So where we're looking to put this is inside of our library, inside of this color sync folder, inside of profiles. This is where the one that I just made is. This is the one I just saved is right here. So if you're back in the software and you click on create profile, and all of a sudden this thing is like somewhere else, like let's say it's showing you this or someplace else, whatever. Again, you can click on your user library here. I'm going to go back to sorting by name, and then come down to color sync, and then to profiles, and you save. Again, I would name this using the name of my shoot, not the name of my sensor, and save it into there, and you should be good to go. Did that work?
Mine was working, but for the Go menu, the library button isn't there.
But what?
For the Go on the Finder.
That's because you need to hold down the Option key.
Oh, I found it.
Okay, guys, we're almost done with this. We're going to take another break, and then we're actually going to start doing some work in Capture One. This is important, though. Again, so hear me out on this one. Hear me out on this one. So this is the Assistant Digital Tech class, right? And that's the perfect entry level where you want to go to actually get a job, right? So you go into a brand new photo studio, brand new photographer, and just, hi, Verser. I just, I'm your digital tech today. Great, nice to meet you, whatever. Hey, Versa, would you like me to really quickly profile your camera sensors for you? What? Oh yeah, we can profile your camera sensors, give you much more accurate color. You'll love this, right? So easy to use. And I'll do one for Photoshop, and I'll do another one for Capture One. Take me 10 minutes, as long as we're setting up. You okay with that? Yes, I'm fine with that. I love that idea, right? Oh, while I'm at it, I should calibrate your monitor really quickly. I brought my own puck. Do you have one? What do you mean calibrate my monitor? My monitor's fine. It's a Mac. It cost me $7,000. Yeah. Gotta be honest with you guys, just so you know, there's a lot of photographers out there that are dumb as shit and lazy as can possibly be and don't know any of this shit. They just think, I actually have a friend, he's a really successful photographer. He's not dumb at all. He's actually a really smart guy. He was on a photo shoot. Again, he does a lot of landscape. So anyway, he was on a photo shoot, and there was like 3 creative directors with him, and they were scouting out locations. And he was like shooting this stuff on his camera, on his, his full-blown Canon 1DS Mark IV, $8 gazillion camera. And they're all shooting this shit on their phone. And they keep going to him, well, can't you make it look like this? Can't you make it look like this? Can't you make it look like this? It was all their pictures on their phone. And so it wasn't the official shoot. They were just scouting locations. But then that night, he built a little case to go underneath his camera that he could mount his phone into. And so the entire time he was supposed to be shooting with his really expensive ass $18,000 camera, he was doing the whole shoot on his phone. And the clients got the shit, and they looked at it, and they go, this is beautiful. This is exactly what we had in mind, because it's what they'd been doing the whole time. Say what? Oh, they were thrilled to pay him. They thought it was the big-ass camera doing all of this stuff, whatever. They didn't know any better. Yeah, anyway. All right, so sorry. So anyway, I'm going to quit the calibration software now. I think you have to quit and restart Capture One in order for this to show, but let me check really quickly and see if it says anything. So, I see import target's not found. That's all that part. Yeah, it does say restart Capture One to actually be able to use this thing. So go to Capture One, quit it. And then restart it.
When you're using Capture One, like, just in general, should you always have base characteristics on the drop-down menu?
No, so what base characteristics do, we'll get into this a little bit deeper once we get into, because that's where we're heading right after the break. What happens is that when you create a file, there's an ICC profile that's assigned to it when you're shooting it, and it's based on the camera that you have connected. If for some reason but that's always doing the next capture. You'll see everything it's called next capture. So well, I can show it to you. If you look at your tether drop-down menu right now, it's this thing right here that says not base characteristics, but next capture adjustments. This thing right here, this ICC profile, it'll be the default based on the camera that you have selected. Now, if I connected a Canon camera to this right now, that would read Canon 5D Mark II. It knows what the camera is. So every shot that I take going on will get that profile assigned to it, which is correct. But that doesn't mean that's the one that you want to necessarily keep. If you want to have a different profile for a different reason, you can go in and change it. If you already have an image that has a profile, you have to do that with base characteristics, because this is only the next capture adjustment. If you've got something that has already got a profile in it, this doesn't change it here. So, with that being said, this is how we would actually change this image right now. So I'm going to go back to my image right now, into my capture folder, not into my other folder right here. So in this case right now, I've got this image that's actually gotten the base characteristics. It's gotten all this weird stuff done to it, which is what we needed to do to build the profile. But I want to reset this image so that I can then control it without having to fight and go back and find all of those things to do. So to do that, you look up at the toolbar at the very top. There's a giant button that's got sort of a counterclockwise circle. Simply click on that, and this will bring your image back to the way it was. However, now we need to actually set this to the correct thing. So we're going to go to our tether. We are going to click on our drop-down menu here for ICC profile, and you'll see this one's got the one that Phase 1 has made. It's a generic one, but it's for this camera. They call it their Pro Standard. If you click on this drop-down menu part right here, if you don't see everybody, you need to actually come down to Other, and then I think where this thing shows up is it in Other? Oh, yep, right there. You click on this, and this is now the color balance for this, for your ICC profile.
What's the difference between color balance and white balance?
So one is trying to remove the bias of your sensor. That's what the profile does. If your sensor is constantly too sensitive to blue, which is what my camera is, every image that I shoot has got too much blue in it. The only way I'm ever going to know that is if I actually do a profile to correct that blue. But that's completely different. I can, because again, you're thinking that white balance is sacred. It's not. If you zoom in on this, you can actually click on the red patch to do a white balance of the red. Stephen Klein uses this as his normal color. Fashion photographer.
You know what's funny is I had this conversation with a teacher the other day and about setting white balance. And they're like, oh, what white balance should you set for outside? And I was like, does it matter? Because you don't need to set your white balance if you're shooting raw, because I got that wrong on the quiz. And then they were like, yeah, but if your white balance isn't set to the right space, then clients aren't going to hire you because your images are going to look blue and weird. And I was like, yeah.
Well, not only that, there's ways to package your files that have all of that done, or you do the processing for them. The point being is that all white balance does is it takes something in your image that you say, I want this to be neutral gray. And so if you've got a gray in your image, so let's say for instance, you did not have this gray in your image, can you find anything in this image that actually should be neutral gray other than this card? Well, there's street lamp bulbs up here that probably should be. Yes, indeed there are. There's a license plate that probably should be. There's a parking sign that probably should be. I don't typically use the street. The street can actually have color in it, so I typically don't use asphalt. There's white type that's sitting up here that's also can be neutral. So there's a million things in here that you might be able to actually white balance on. There's another white something back in here. So, but at any rate, that's all white balance is. But that's got nothing to do with the bias of your sensor. The bias of your sensor is just getting your file to being what it should look like, and then you saying, and this is what the white balance of it should be. Make sense? Okay. So I've got 306 right now, guys. Let's make it a hard 10, hard 9. Be back at 315. We got a lot to get through.
So, base characteristics is just, that specific image that you're editing, and then next.
Hang on just one second. Okay, so to find your profiles to turn in for assignment 6-1, again, in the Macintosh world, you need to have your user library visible. It's not visible normally. So if yours is not visible, you come up to the Go menu, click on it, hold down your Option key, and the library will show up. Click on Library, and then inside of Library, you're going to look for Application Support. Inside of Application Support, you're going to click on Adobe. Once you're inside Adobe, you're going to find Camera Raw. Inside of Camera Raw, you will find Camera Profiles, and the one that I just made is right here. Now, if you drag this thing, watch me, don't do this right now, watch me. If I drag this thing to, say, like my desktop, and I don't hold down my Option key to make a copy, it is going to remove it from my camera profiles. I don't want to do that. I want to keep it there. So I'm just going to hold on the Option key and make a copy, and then on my desktop right now, this is what you would actually submit to in that 6-1 assignment. So you guys have that one. The second one that we need to get to is, I'm going to go back. I'm going to do another search, and I'm going to do location of ICC profiles in OS. And again, ICC profile locations on Mac, and X-Rite is the company that makes all of these cards and the profiling hardware, all that stuff. So anyway, I'm going to click on these guys again because they have it pretty well done. So on a Mac, it's showing you right here, it's one of two locations. It's either the overall system library, color sync profiles, or it's your user one. That's where ours are. Then for Windows, in all operating system, profiles are located in your C drive in the Windows folder, System 32 folder, Spool folder, Drivers folder, Color folder. That's where you'll find your ICC profiles. So again, in the Macintosh world, if we come up to our user, this is my user library. Again, if you want to make your user library always available to you, go to your Go menu, click on it, hold down the Option key, click on Library, and then in the little window that opens up here at the top, if you hover over just the left of the word that says Library, you can click on this icon and drag it over onto your favorites and let go. And then you don't have to go through that Go thing and all that other shit. Anyway, you want to click on Library, you want to come down to Color Sync, and then to Profiles, and this inside of this is where that custom profile will be. So that's what you would put in for assignment 6.2. So again, 6.1, I'm sorry, 6.2 was your DNG profile. 6.3 is your custom ICC profile. Then this whole calibrate, monitor, and calibrate and profile and monitor. If you click on this and take a look at it here, things have gotten considerably more complex in doing all of this. I asked this question before, and Miguel was the only person in here who had a Macintosh that needed to use an older version of this. And did you ever get that hardware to be able to work that out, Miguel? Are you good on your? Okay, well, I brought the puck that you need. Do you have the software? I gave you the software though, right? That's the hardware that you need. So, anybody else in this room have a 13-inch MacBook anything? 13-inch MacBook Pro, MacBook Air, anything? If you've got a 14 or a 15, you're good. Shoot.
Are we still working on like Capture One?
Yes, yeah, we're going to still be in Capture One. So I'm just trying to do a little cleanup here. But at any rate, you need to follow these videos. There's two sets of videos in here. One is for Macintosh using Apple Silicon, which is where most of you guys are. Again, in Miguel's case, that he's using Apple Silicon, but it's an older version, so he has to use a different hardware to do this. So this will walk you through the whole steps. The hardware puck that you use to do the measurement, you can get, they have them here at the studio, and they also have them in the media center on the 4th floor of 623. If you're doing Windows, it's these two sets of videos. It's the same guy that does all 4 videos. There's certain settings that you need to do to your computer before you actually do the calibration part, and then this will walk you through the calibration part. The Windows part is simpler in a way, but there's another thing about the Windows part that matters. Getting a profile to stick in Windows has been challenging for decades. This will actually walk you through the process. You've got to go pretty deep down inside the OS to make sure that it stays, but once you do, then you will also be in a calibrated environment and you will be good to go.
Question?
Yes?
Do you have a BenQ monitor and like an Apple drive? Do you Apple or
Well, what's running your BenQ?
a Mac?
Yeah. So that's what you would do. So, but you're profiling the BenQ.
So would I be using the Apple videos or the Windows videos?
So again, oh, that's a really good question, because no, I've got the same problem. I have an older BenQ. I have to use the older software on the BenQ, and so I use one set of software and one puck for my laptop and a completely different one for my BenQ.
How do I do my
You need to tell me what model BenQ you have, and I'll tell you which way to go.
get it for everything?
Well, here, I'll tell you this right now. This is the easiest way to look at it, is if you come up to your system settings and you click on your displays. Where are you? Displays right here. You'll see if I click on my, this is my Macintosh, this is my laptop right here. This is actually the projector that I'm hooked up to right here. So you'll see the same thing though. But you'll see, do you have presets when you click on your laptop? Do you see this presets right down here? What?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Okay. When I click on this up here, that's all going to go away. If that happens, then you have to use the new, well, I can tell you right now, because you do have presets for your laptop, you have to use the new software, exactly the software that's listed in this, in our assignment. If you click on your BenQ and all of this shit disappears and all you have is this profile, color profile right here, then you need to use the old software, and I will give you the old software and the puck for it. All right, but just find out. If you have all the presets, then you follow those same videos. You just do it for your external monitor, and they will the video walks you through it, because the video talks about using a laptop with a monitor. So you should be good to go. And if you have, guys, if anybody has any questions about that, again, this is not something that I want to be punitive to anybody in here. You guys are flying blind. You have no idea what your real color underneath the hood is, and you can't see it because your monitor lies to you. You can't capture it because your sensor lies to you. This is trying to get rid of all of those lies so that you then stop thinking about this stuff. Why are my prints so dark? Why is my print so blue? Why is my print, all of that goes away. All right. Questions about any of this? All right, so I'm going to change the deadline for the quiz. Actually, I'm going to do it right now while I'm thinking about it. That looks like it's already extended for a week. Okay. Who knows when I did that? All right. So, last week, you guys actually shot in the studio and you were relocating your cameras to orient on axis to your light source to use a color card legitimately. Do we all remember that? Right? What were you doing when you were reading that card, when you were looking at that card? What were you doing? What were you looking at? That's all partly correct. Anybody have anything else to bring to this? Let's do this with the girl. So go ahead. If you don't have Capture One going, go ahead and launch Capture One. This girl right here. So when I would be actually shooting this, your first move when you're shooting tethered is to do white balance, because white balance can actually change the values of everything in your image. So if you actually are trying to read the white patch you're trying to figure out exposure based on this white patch, you've got to color balance first. So you click on this to do the color balance, and then you hover over the white card to actually read the value of this. To zoom in and out of your image really quickly in Capture One, you just hold down the space bar and double click anywhere. No matter where you double click, it will zoom in to 100%, and then double click, it will zoom back out again. You'll see later on when we have multiple images selected, it will do all of them, zoom in at the same time, zoom out at the same time, all that. Anyway, I'm going to zoom into this really quickly. I'm going to white balance on the gray patch and hover over this, and I'm reading a 247 in my luminosity. You see the numbers that are sitting right up at the very top when I hover over something? So again, it's giving me my red, green, and blue values, and then the luminosity value. The luminosity is the one I care about, and I want that to be between 245 and 250. Are we all good on this part? That is how you guarantee yourself perfect exposure. And we talked about the consequences of having, especially underexposure last week. So anyway, that being said, we are now going to open a completely new session. To do that, there's a couple of options that you've got. The first one is that up at the File menu, you can come down to Open. It'll also list open recents for you. These are all sessions, but I'm going to click on Open. It'll give me a dialog box to open up, and you need to go find that folder that I gave to everyone that is the Capture One working files. That's what it's called. I'm going to see if I can find mine in the folder that you guys have. It's this one right here, this Capture One Pro working files. If you click to open this, you'll see up at the very top, there's two folders inside of here. One of them is the session, this 20200 blah underscore. That's one. The other is just a set of files that I'm going to use to show you what it would be like if you were shooting to card and wanted to import your card stuff into. So this is the one you want to click on, is the one on the very top, and you will see at the top there is that file. This is the session preference file. You'll see in my case, I've got two backups. The reason I have these backups is that whenever Capture One releases a brand new or a completely new version, so when they go from version 16 to 17 or version 25 or 22 to 23 or whatever, that jump, they completely change the engine, the color engine inside of Capture One, and it requires a new preference file. So what happens when you go to open the old one, if you only have a newer version of Capture One installed, it will say to you, you are working on a newer version of Capture One. Do you want to update this session to work in the new version? And if you say yes, it will create a backup version of your old preference file for old versions of Capture One. So in all likelihood, this is a backup for Capture One 12. This is probably Capture One 21, and this is now Capture One 23. This is what you open, is the preference file. Yes? I'm sorry, you what? No, here, we can do it right now. And you'll see I'm getting another upgrade because this my computer's upgraded from 23 to, or from 22 to, and just click on upgrade. You'll be fine. right, so does everybody have, of course, this is the file that would show up in mine first. Does everybody have a set of images sort of that looks something kind of like this a little bit? There's a bunch of files down in here. There's stuff down in here that's got stars and colors. And does everybody have this open? Okay, great. All right, so we can actually start talking about Capture One now. A couple of things. I want to start here in the library part. I'm not going to spend forever here, but I do want to show you a couple things about this part. So yours might be sorted different than mine. If it is, that's okay. It doesn't matter in this part. But at any rate, I'm going to start at the very top. Yeah, how do I want to do this? Yeah, we need to talk about ratings here really quickly. So in terms of doing ratings, most people work with stars. So as you are going through your edit like this, the trick to, oh, here, hang on, there's a couple other things we need to talk about first. Sorry. So if we take a look along the top, we've already talked about these are the tool tabs, and inside you have tools. You can add any tool to any tool tab. You can build your own. That's not a problem here. Going across the top up in here, this part up here, the very top, this is the tool tab at the very top. You can customize this tool tab to do anything else that you might want to do. For instance, we don't have rotating pictures in here. That doesn't exist as a tool tab. But if you do a control click on this bar and come down to Customize Toolbar, this thing will open up and you have all sorts of other tools in here that you can actually use. The rotate tool is right here. You can grab this tool and drag it up to the top and let go, and it will be right there, and then you can hit done. If you screw this whole thing up and you want to get back to the default, you grab the whole space down at the bottom and you drag that up to the top, and it'll reset it back to its original, and you hit done. So going across the top, these are tools that some people use a lot, some people don't use. I don't do a whole lot of stuff up here other than grabbing the white point cursor. So if you look at this tool setup in here and go to the white point, the eyedropper part, and click on a drop-down menu, you can see that the top one is to pick a white balance. You can also add color readouts. So if you come down to this add color readout and come down and actually just drop something down on your image, it will save a point on here that will give you these constant readouts. So a lot of times when you are working in studios, like when I work for Nike, they have 6, 7 studios all over the world that are shooting the exact same thing. They want an identical background, identical lighting. You put these color points all over the set when you're doing your lighting, and you can adjust it. They have a reference file. You can adjust yours to match that reference file, and it's really easy to do it this way. If you want to get rid of these points, you have to go to that same menu and come down to Delete Color Readout, and then click on these and they go away. They're non-printable. So then going along across the top here anymore, right here, the next thing that I care about a lot, in this top file, if you've got the white one, this is a good one to actually have open for this one. There is an exposure warning here. To make sure that your exposure warning is set correctly, we need to look at our preferences. So come all the way over to the Capture One part, down to Settings. Now, if Windows is consistent with how they do this, settings will not be here. Settings will actually be in the edit window for Windows people, the edit menu. But anyway, for us, for Macintosh people, it's settings right here. This thing will open up. We're not going to talk about too many things across here because we've got a lot of work to do, but I do want to point out a couple of things here that people are changing a lot and screwing shit up in this studio. So I just want to make sure that you understand that this is where you can fix this. If you come over to Capture, the little camera that's at the very top, and click on that, you will see that there's a whole list of cameras that you can either enable tether support or enable tether support, unable tether support. This is a nightmare because if this is turned off, your camera will never connect. You want to leave all of this on. This is a legacy thing. It used to be, back in the days of USB 2, everybody was writing their own flavor of USB and they could conflict with one another. And so you would come in here and you would turn off every single camera except for your brand because that would eliminate that conflict. That doesn't really exist anymore. There's no reason to do this other than to fuck with people so that they cannot get their shit to run in the studio because somebody came in here and fucking unchecked everything except Sony. Yes?
So moving forward, if you have issues with your camera connecting,
This is not where it is. It's your cable 99% of the time. All right, are we good on this part? Moving on, we're not finished here. You need to come to the exposure tab, and in the exposure tab, the way I set mine, I put the default is 255. I drag this down to 250 because what'll happen is that when I use my exposure control, warning, it will flag anything that is 250 or brighter. So when I'm trying to get that range of my card between 245 and 250, I know that this is my limit. I know that anything that gets flagged in red is not going to be able to print with detail. I also enable my shadow warning. So for those of you who are serious about doing commercial work, you need to have your shadows somewhere around 15 to have enough detail to print as shadow detail. Now that doesn't mean that you don't have blacks that are darker than this, but what this is showing you is if it gets flagged in blue, it's saying this is the line that you need to be aware of, that anything darker than this, you're not going to have any shadow detail there. So I'm going to leave this part as it is. The rest of this, we're just going to leave it its defaults. We can close this up. Now when you click on this exposure warning and you take a look at your image, you don't see anything in red. But if we come to our adjustment window and we actually push the adjustment up, you'll see that things are starting to blow out. Anything that is in red right now no longer has printable detail. If I go in the other direction and I start to make things darker, you'll see that eventually something should turn blue, maybe too dark to actually see it. So again, you would not make these adjustments using exposure. You would make all of this in your lighting and your camera. You don't want to do any corrections in post. If you're stop underexposed and you say, oh, well, I'll just add a stop of exposure here, that doesn't work. That does nothing for making a richer data set for your file. So anyway, I'm going to turn my exposure warning off. We'll talk about copy and paste later. So, yes. So again, in your settings, under exposure, you click enable shadow warning, and I crank mine up to 15, and that's it. Close it up. There's nothing in here that's dark enough. If you go to the next crowns down and turn it on, you can certainly see, this is an interesting thing. You see this is blowing out right here. This is being hit in red. The reason this is being hit in red, because there's detail in this, that is not blown out. But the reason that's going to red is if you hover over this, look at my readout on the very top. I'm getting a 251 in the red channel and a 251 in the green channel. Anything that is above 250, whether it's just a single channel or all of them, you'll show you this warning. So this warning doesn't necessarily tell you that you have a problem. It just tells you need to be looking at this and make sure what this really is. And then it looks like I've got blue down in here that is this shadow warning. So I'm going to turn this on and off. Yep, right down in here. This down in here is blue. You can see I've got a 1, 1, 2, 1. It's completely black.
this isn't a basic question, but for Photoshop, when you are using the exposure warning, what's the shortcut to control it?
When you're doing what?
When you're in Photoshop and you accidentally turn the exposure warning on, you use the keyboard shortcut to move away.
So are you in Camera Raw? You have to be.
Yeah.
It's the little, if you look at your histogram up at the very top, there's a little square box on the right side at the very top and another one on the left side. You click on those little boxes. Okay, working our way across the top part right here, this part actually matters. This is where you can have multiple images show or not. So if you click on this top image, hold down your shift key or your command key and click on a second image. If you do not see two of these side by side, it's because you have this unchecked. This multiple check thing right now, you need to keep on and keep this part on. Now the rest of this gives you like proofing margins and visibility settings, this kind of stuff. You don't really need to care about these, but this one definitely matters. Now you can also select far more than just one image, but right now I've got 2 of them selected. I'm clicking on the top one. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna hold down the shift key. I'm clicking on the top one and it doesn't deselect. If you want to deselect all of your thumbnails, what you have to do is you need to hover outside the image. So you can see where my cursor is right here. Click outside your image and it deselects everyone. There's no other way to undo that part. You can do multiple images, so I'm going to click on this one on the very top. I'm going to scroll down, and I want to click quite a few of these. I'm going to come all the way down, hold down my shift key, and click on number. I'm going to click even more than that, because you need to see what it looks like when I've got everything selected. You'll see it will actually put up a series of images for you, and then down here it'll say plus 6 more. That tells you that there's 6 images that you are not looking at, that you haven't been able to see right now. So just realize that you can select more, because this is when you want to apply global adjustments, you want to do that kind of stuff. You'll end up selecting more. So anyway, I just want to make sure everybody was aware of that part. Yes?
Why does it say plus 6 more?
You need to select a bunch of them. Come up to the very top and just select any image and then do Command A. It'll select everything, and you should see a series of them and 12 more. It just depends on how many you have ultimately selected. All right, again, to get rid of all of these selections, you cannot select any of the thumbnails now because they're all already selected. You got to click outside one of the thumbnails. It doesn't matter which one, but just outside of it to get that part off. So then continuing our way over, I'm going to click on this one image again, the one at the very top. There is a size slider that sits up right here at the very top. If you click on this, you can actually make your image larger or smaller. It has to do with this part right here. There is one that also functions for your thumbnails here, but I don't use it, and I'll show you why I don't use it next. And it's this grouping right over here. So I'm just working my way across this, the plus and minus fit slider, you can see. If you go to the next one over, the eyeball, and you click on this, this shows you how you treat your thumbnails. So if you have the first one selected like this, and then you come over to your thumbnail window, if you come right to the edge of your thumbnails, you will get a double-headed arrow. If you click and drag this, you will see that you can get almost a contact sheet. It just keeps going on and on and on. It makes your viewer window smaller or begins to, push it over. But this is, so this first setting that I just showed you right here in this drop-down menu here gives you that. The second one, if you click on this one, this gives you every thumbnail, plus it gives you information on the side. Now, there's people who will actually edit a lot like this. There's also people who will go in and process files using just this part. I don't use this part a whole lot, but there's people who live in this space. The one that I use is the next one over. If you click on the next one over, what you get is the biggest thumbnail that it can give you. So I'm going to drag this back, but it will never give you more than one stack of thumbnails. It will make them smaller, but it can't make them anything beyond bigger. So I get this as big as I can get it, and I stop there. You will never have 2 thumbnails in a row. They will only be stacked one on top of another. And the advantage to this is I can now use my arrow keys to go up and down, but you really should not use your up and down arrow keys. If you use the arrow keys on your keyboard, try it right now, use your right arrow key and it will go down through the set of images. Use your left arrow key, it will go up through the set of images. But the problem in using your up and down arrow keys is if you don't set yours up like this, watch what happens to mine. You don't need to change yours. I'm going to go back to the one that shows a full list of these. So I've got my top one selected, and you think, okay, we'll hit the down arrow key and it's going to go to the crowns. It doesn't. The down arrow key drops down, and this causes you to skip every other image. If you actually have this drawn even wider, now I'm going to be skipping every third image. I'm going to click on this. So you only want to use your right and left arrow keys, because no matter how many thumbnails you have, you will go through them in order. So only right and left, never up and down. Because again, if you do multiple thumbnails across like this, you're screwed. If you use the setting that I use, this one right here, you will never run into that problem. You can use any of your arrow keys. It doesn't make any difference. Okay, continuing over at the next thing, and this one's important, the up and down arrows. If you click on this, this is the sorting of your images. So in my case right now, I've got mine set to name. That's not necessarily what you always want. A lot of times if you have misnamed your files, that can throw stuff off, or if you change cameras in the middle of a shoot, that can throw stuff off. If you want to actually have your images sorted in chronological order, you would pick date, and it will change everything. These will now be in the date that they were actually either created, or in the case of like JPEGs and that kind of stuff, made. So you don't, this is a JPEG that was generated. Okay. If you come down and you click on this drop down again and click date again, it will reverse it. So now if you click on this, you will see that date has got a little mark by it, and the check mark for reverse is on. If you uncheck reverse, it'll actually undo it again, and you will see it'll go back to your normal date. This is a way that if you get a really screwed up shooting and you want to actually get it all in order, you sort it by date, because that's what gets time stamped in there, and then you can actually go in and rename all of your files in the correct numbering order, and you'll be good to go. Yes?
Are all these changes embedded in the workspace?
I'm sorry?
Are all of the changes embedded in the workspace?
No, they're not. So that's an interesting one. So everybody, really quickly, go to your library, hover over the capture folder, hold down your control key, and click and do your little drop down menu and say, show me this in the Finder. And this is actually where this stuff is in the Finder. If you scroll, these are the captures. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you will see a Capture One folder right here. Inside of this has got a whole series of settings. This is just, if you had never, I've opened this in 4 different versions of Capture One now, so I have 4 sets of settings. But the latest one, I think, is this one right here. This is where you'll see that there's a cause link and there's a cause mask link. These are your XMP files here. So the changes that you make, any changes that you make in this are saved in these files. So if you do star ratings, they're saved here. If you do an exposure adjustment, it's saved here. Your white balance is saved here. Your ICC characteristic is saved here. They're all saved here. If you lose these things, all of your files are going to return just to their default raw state.
What about the workspace itself? Like, because we added or changed some things, like the shadows, for example.
So are you talking about the base characteristic changing that whole part, the ICC profile again part?
No, not that. But how we changed the ways that we view the screening and stuff.
Oh yeah, this thing, the layout in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of that is saved in the preference file for the session. So that's all saved in this file right here. It's the top session file. That controls everything. It controls how your screen looks, how the view looks, all of that stuff. If you actually create custom like naming conventions, all that kind of stuff, all of that's saved here. So this is the mother load file right here. So, but this brings up a good point. If somebody asks you for a session, you cannot just give them the captures. If you do, they will have none of the information that you have done. You have to give them the whole session folder so that when they start it, they will see what you see. They will see your star ratings and your all of that kind of stuff. Make sense? Okay, so we're getting there. So back in this image right now, we're going to start here and just assume that this is our capture. We've done the whole shooting here, and I just want to go through and I want to rate my files. So when you guys rate your files, what's better, 1 star or 5 stars? 5 stars, right? Don't ask me why. For my whole life, 1 star was like the top. And I would start editing with people, and it would be like, yeah, okay, that's a throwaway 5 star, throwaway 5 star, throwaway 5 star. Oh, I really like that one. That's a 3 star. And they would just look at me like, what? So anyway, use whatever system you want, but we're going to start here. So at the very one, you can see it's got and it doesn't matter what you have at the very top. It's got a 1 star rating on here. There is up to 5 stars possible. So you can hit a 5 and it will actually change it to a 5 star rating. You can hit a 1 and it'll go back to a 1 star. You can hit a 0 and it will get rid of the rating altogether. You also have color ratings in here. I'm going to go back to my 1 star just so this doesn't get screwed up. You have color ratings here as well. The little square that's right next to this, if you click on that, you'll get a drop-down menu and you can flag these in any color that you want. What most people do is they only use green and red when you get to this stage of the game. So typically the editors that I work with will go through and do star ratings at the beginning. Everybody goes through and does their 1-star ratings. And then everybody will go through and do their 2-star ratings and then their 3-star ratings. They'll go through and they'll do all of that part here. So that's how most people, and then when it gets time to hit the heroes, they will actually go through and they will have, like, you've got a 5-star rating, but it's got a red flag. And then the superhero, great one that everyone has to use, gets the green flag, and they kind of go from there. But again, you guys can use this however you want to do this part of it. However, in my case, if you take a look over now and still in the library in the filters panel, you will actually see in the filters panel exactly what has been done to this whole group of images. So in this group of images, I have 12 images that have no star ratings at all. I have 3 of them that have a 1-star. I have 2 that have 2 stars. I've got 1 that's got a 4-star and 5 that have 5 stars. So if you click on your 5-star, you will see there are only 5 images here that are your 5-star images. That's all it's going to show you. It's not going to show you anything else. They are all there, but it's not going to show it to you because you've said, I only want to see those. If you then come up to the search filter and see the circle with a little X in it, if you click on that, it will get rid of all of your selections. You'll also see that I have color taggings in mine as well. You can do multiple versions of this. So if I wanted to see the 5-star images, and I'm also going to add the 4-star. To add multiple, if you just click on the 4, it just changes. If you want to add multiple ones, you add the option key. So I'm going to do my 4 and 5-star images that are also flagged in red. And this will be the result. Although that is not looking like that is the result. Oh, I take that back. It is the 4-star and the 5-star images and everything that is in red. So it's not everybody has to have this. Does that make sense? All right. So this is a way that you can actually go through and sort. So again, a lot of people would do their 1-star images and then they'll click on the 1-stars and then promote stuff to 2 stars and then keep going through on and on like that. Is everybody sort of clear about this part? Good. And then you can still go up here and do your sorting up here again. You got it's by name right now. You can also sort by rating. So I'm going to uncheck all of these by just clearing. So again, over in my search box, I'm going to just click the circle with the X in it. Over here, I can actually do a quick sort by rating. And that'll put all of my 5 stars at the top, and then I can go down through only those. So it's not like you really have to hide this stuff, but when people are editing, this is typically the way they'll do it. Now, when I edit this stuff, I typically work on a larger monitor. I will do this in increments of 3 images at a time. So I will just do this, and it'll show me this, and I can compare things. So let's go ahead and select 3 images. Just select someone at the very top, go down to 3 or 4 images. It doesn't really matter. So remember I told you there's a trick about actually being able to zoom in and zoom out. I'm going to go back to my regular white balance tool. So if you hover over this image, I'm going to hover over this girl's face. I'm going to hold down the space bar and double click, and I zoom into her face, and then double click and I zoom back out. If I hold down my shift key as well, so space bar and shift key and double click, zoom in, everybody is zoomed into the same. And now when I move it, still holding down my shift bar, my shift key and the space bar, everyone moves. If you let go of this shift key, you can reposition this to show a face. I can reposition this to show a face, if I can find it. Again, I can double click on this one alone. Oh, it's because there is no face in this one. We'll zoom into that. So again, holding down the shift key, I can now, the space bar and the shift key, I can double click to zoom out and double click to zoom back in, and I can move around like this. So it allows you to do multiple things actually really pretty quickly. So last thing that I can show you on this is we're going to do something strange here. So I'm going to go up to the very top again, and I've got this first image is selected right here. I'm going to white balance on this image, but I'm going to do something really weird so that you see that it's very different. So I'm going to click on the red to make this a really blue image. And now I want to apply this really blue shit to this image that's right underneath it. To do that, you come up to this little 2 set of icons up at the very top. This is copy and apply. These are copy and apply adjustments. So if you click on this first arrow that points up, that just copied the settings that I'm using right here. If I come down to the one that's down underneath it and then click the down arrow, it will apply that color setting to the other image as well. So this is how you do, again, it's the equivalent of doing a sync and then a sync all in Lightroom or in Photoshop. Are there questions about any of this? Yes.
How do you get out of the copy adjustments
I don't know how you got in there. No, it's not that you don't want it to go away. Oh, this little arrow part, this is something I've selected up here. It's some weird arrow thing selected. So that was one second. Now it's not yours. I drop and drop down. Yeah, like that was, yeah. That's the other one I use.
Is there another copy and apply tool?
Is there another way?
Copy and apply tool?
Yes, there is. So you don't have it by default, so we are going to add it. So first off though, I want to undo what I've just done here. So Command Z works progressively in Capture One. So I'm going to go back to Command Z, and Command Z 3 times, and it returns this. So we're going to do the same thing, but we are going to do this in a slightly different way. You need to add a tool up here to the top that you don't have. So again, hover over the toolbar, hold down your Control key, click to get this drop-down menu, and come down to Customize your toolbar. And the one that you're looking for is a copy and paste all at the same time. It's it's this one right here, Copy and Apply. So you're going to click on Copy and Apply, and I put it right next to the Copy and Apply, the other one. This is just a one-step version of it. So, and then again, click Done. So then in this case, I'm going to, again, I've selected my top image. I'm going to pervert it. Sorry. I'm just going to click on this part right here, and then I'm going to select 3 images down. So I'm going to still leave that one selected. It's my primary. And I'm going to hold down my Shift key and select 3 or 4 others. You can see that this is your primary because it's got the white box around it. And then I'm going to hit this Copy and Apply. And it'll open up a dialog box and say, well, what do you want to copy and apply? These are the things that have been changed. So in the image that I picked, yours may be different, but in the one I picked, there is an exposure adjustment in there, there's a highlight recovery in there, there's a white balance in there, and then there's a skin tone editor in there. And what else? And that's all that's in there. So it's saying, do you want to do all of these things? And I could say, yes, I want to do all of these things. If I didn't want to do like the highlight recovery, I can uncheck that. If I didn't want to do the exposure change, I can check that off as well. And it will only do the white balance. I'm going to leave the skin tone as in there as well, and then simply hit Apply. And you'll see it'll do it to everybody. So it's just a shorter step of doing it. Anyway. Questions about any of this? Yes?
My copy and apply button, like, is it letting me add it? But it's
All righty. We're doing sort of okay. Okay, last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to actually undo this part because there's no reason to keep this. So Command Z to undo that, Command Z to undo the other one, and Command Z to get it back to the beginning here. So the last thing, not the last thing, but the next thing that I want to show you on this is that how I actually really set up to shoot. So this gives you just some idea of what happens in the library. I'm going to double click to make this a little bit larger. So the next thing that we want to do is, this is how I truly set up to do a shooting, a professional shooting for me, and it's a way that I want you guys to think about doing your shootings. So as a part of my naming convention, I always number my shots. So when I did the shot part right here, I've got my naming convention. If we go and take a look at it again, this naming convention this has actually got a different naming convention than what I had before, so I'm going to change this. So I need everybody to go to the tether tool, come down to the next capture naming, click on the little three dots, come up to, I'm sorry, not the little three dots there, the little three dots that are right next to the format, not the ones that's up at the very top. The format part, click on that. We are going to get rid of the 3-digit counter, so just hit the delete key. We are going to add destination folder. So destination folder name, drag that up there. And then finally, drag your 1-digit counter back up there. Oh, sorry, don't drag that yet. Put in an underscore first. And then drag your 1-digit counter up. Click on the little drop-down menu and come down and call it 3-digit counter. And then because you don't want to keep doing this work every single time you do this, you can actually click on this presets drop-down menu and you can say, I want you to save this custom preset so I don't have to keep doing this. And I would call it Verser. You can call it with your name, naming. ING, and say, go ahead and save there. And then whenever you come into this box, you just click this drop-down menu and click on Verser naming, and it will do all this work for you. So but anyway, I'm going to go ahead and say OK to that. But in this case, I don't really have any session folders to work in. So I'm going to create a brand new session for this to actually do it. We'll finish up here. If you don't have a camera, go grab one. If you do have a camera, you need to get your camera tethered. We're going to build a new session, and I will show you how we would do this from basically the inception to shooting through tethered. We will not hit color today. We will start that next week. But this way we can finish up all of this. If they do not have enough cameras, you get any camera that they have. Get either you can get a medium format. It doesn't matter. If they ultimately don't have enough for the people that need it, we will share. Yeah. No. Okay, so again, back in Capture One, we're going to create a completely new session. So again, up to the little plus, down to new session. I'm going to name it. It's just something that's slightly different than what I was, what I had already done. Again, I want to actually save this. This is going to my digital tech class. That's not where I want to save it. I want to simply put it in my pictures folder, and I'm going to say OK. Oh, see, I'm going to wait. Hang on 1 second. I'm going to wait for you. I'm sorry, I thought everybody was back. You hide behind that curtain. All right, I'm going to cancel out of this and wait until everyone is sort of set up. Okay, so back in Capture One, we're going to start from scratch. I need to create a brand new session. So I am going to click on my little plus button in the library and do new session. And I'm going to type in 20251017 underscore COL underscore ASSTDEMO. And that's going to just be, again, I'm going to put this in my pictures folder. I'm not going to click on new window, and I'm going to say OK. So your immediate next move, what is it? Tether. Change the naming convention. click on the little 3 dots. If you saved that name counter preset like I did, all you need to do is pick it now. Otherwise, you need to undo the camera counterpart, put in an underscore, grab the destination folder named token up, another underscore, grab the 1-digit counter up, and then actually change the drop-down menu to 3-digit, and then take a look right down here at what it's going to ultimately look like, and say, okay. It's just a great habit to be in doing, because then you don't have to go back and rename all your files. Everybody good on this part so far? Okay, so the way I work is when I'm actually doing a shooting, again, I think I've already told you this once today, typically I shoot 15, 20 outfits in a day. That's a typical catalog day, sometimes less, sometimes more. But each one of those gets its own number. And the reason I do that, it's a 2-digit number. The reason I do that is you can think of it like shots, okay? So the first outfit is 01, the second outfit is 02, the third is 03, the next one is 04. It gives you some structure and order to your shooting, to your day, because you guys, I know, I've seen you guys bang out 2,000 frames in a single day, and it's just all in this one giant folder, and there's no rhyme or reason to it, and yeah, could you go in and separate it and tear it apart? But you should just have it set up to do that in the very beginning. So it's just a simpler way of doing this part. So that's the structure that we're actually going to do in here. Two ways of doing this. The first way of doing this is that if you look down here in your session favorites, you will see that there's nothing here. This is the worst named thing in all of Capture One, because favorites would cause you to believe or make you think that, oh, it's got a little heart next to it. It's one of my favorites. And, or, you know, it's something I use all the time. It's not. What this really should say is session subfolders. That's what this thing should say. It doesn't, but it should. So we're going to start and do it the painful way first, and then I'm going to show you the quick way of doing it. So the painful way to start is to click on the plus right next to, again, session favorites. Click on the plus. It's going to open up and it's going to say, okay, where do you want to actually name this thing? Now I've got to go from my pictures folder all the way down to the bottom. This should be the one that I'm actually working on, but it's not. It's this one right here. Into my capture folder right here. And I'm going to do in my capture folder, new folder, and then I'm going to type in 01 and hit create. Do not do just one. The problem with doing just one, if you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, when you hit 11, 1 and 11 will be next to one another. They will not go in order. So you need to use both digits, even though it's going to be an 02 and 03 and all that. Anyway, and then just hit add. And then you'll see right here that it'll actually add in your session favorite this it's stupid little heart. That doesn't mean anything, but there's an 01 next to it. Now, this to me is labor intensive because I've got to go through that every single step of the way. I don't want to do that. Instead, I want you to hover over the capture folder, hold down the control key, click and say, show me this in the Finder. It'll take you to the Finder and you will see inside your Finder there is an 01. In here, I'm going to either, if you don't know the shortcut, you need to come up to the File menu and come down and do New Folder. Instead, you can just do Shift-Command-N will give you a new folder, and you type in 02. Hit the Return key or the Enter key. Now, if you do that again, if you just hold down Shift-Command and hit N, it will put the next untitled folder inside of 02. That's not where you want it. Click back into the capture folder and then do Shift-Command-N and do 03. Click outside, Shift-Command-N, 04. Click outside, Shift-Command-N, 05. Click outside, Command-Shift-N, 06. Infinitely faster, right? Then you need to, we've already got 1 is already in here. You need to be able to still see Capture 1 underneath your folders. Select 02, hold down the Shift key and select all of them. I'm not going to select 01 because it's already there. And then simply drag and drop these onto your session favorites. And let go.
How do you get rid of the capture with the other numbers? Because mine has the session favorites and the numbers, but also has capture at the top.
What? You want that there? Oh, no, I know, because you said when it asked you if you wanted to save that guy, because you went into another folder, you said yes. I don't say yes to that, I say no. But you can click on the capture folder and hit the minus and they'll get rid of it. Okay, you can move these things around. I don't like one being down at the bottom, so I'm going to click on one right here, and you can click and you can drag it up to the top. You can reorder these. However, here's the trick. Right now, all our captures are designed to go into this capture folder. This is the parent. I don't want that. I want it to go into my folder number 1. So you hover over folder number 1, you hold down your control key and you click to get the drop down menu and you say set this as my capture folder. And in order to proceed, hopefully that won't be the case again. And it's going to say, would you like to remember the previous capture folder as your favorite? You do not say yes to this, you say no to this. And then you will notice now you've got a little camera right here next to this 01. This captures folder right now refers to this folder right here. If you hold down, because again, this is one of the confusing things about Capture One, guys. These are aliases to what you designate as a capture folder. So if you now hover over the capture folder and do your control click and say, show me this in the Finder, it shows you 01 because 01 is your capture folder. We set that up when we designated it, and this little camera was there. If you want to go back and make the parent the capture folder, you again control click on this and say, set this as my capture folder, and it's not letting me do that, which is really, oh, I take that back. It's not, this is now, again, the alias. The capture part is missing. I actually have to go find the capture part in my, my system, which you can do here. So if you continue to scroll down on this whole library part, you can find your Mac, you can open up your Macintosh system, you can open up your different stuff that's on your folder. The easier way to get there is to go to a different folder, because right now this capture folder is taking me to the selects. I want to see the capture folder actually inside my library. So hover over this, hover over capture folder, command click, come down and say, show me this in the library. And it'll come down, it will open everything up, and it will show you your capture folder in your library right here. And now instead of, you'll see 01 is inside of it, it's set. You can now click on the capture folder itself, control click, and say set this now as my capture folder. And now you will go back to the original. But I don't want to be at the original, I want to be on the parent, on my number 1. So again, I'm going to set this number 1 as my capture folder. No, I don't want that to remember. And now go take a look. Was there a question over here?
Yes, I accidentally put the set capture folder and then set a slides folder and then set outputs folder for number 1. I need to remove somehow.
What did you do?
Wait, for this, I meant to hit set capture folder, but it is select folders, not all folders that I want.
Oh, they sure are. So then we'll go back to you're going to have to navigate down to your selects folder in the library part. Don't worry about that right now. Don't worry about that right now. And that will include reset everything. Okay, so let's take a look at what's going on here. In our tethered setup here, if you now take a look at your sample of your file naming, you will see that that 01 has been put in for you. So then we need to start taking pictures. So I need everybody to turn their camera on. What do you think the ambient light in this room is?
Mine, is any,
It was a simple question. I was just, what do you think the ambient light in this room is?
Do we need a lens or just a camera body?
You may not need, the lens might be enough. I mean, the camera body might be enough. Oh, come on.
My file name is the same as yours, but the last three digits start in 004.
Yeah, don't worry about that. We're going to fix that in just a second. You can leave it where it is right now. I'm going to set my ISO up to about, I don't know, 1200, something like that. And I'm going to do a picture. Who the fuck has set this up? Hang on, I got to reset this camera really quickly. All right, let's try this again. Hang on. Oh, fuck me. What is going on? Actually, it's probably a tether cable. Hang on. Okay, so this is my set of images. So is everybody, I want you to bang off like 3 or 4 images just to sort of get this party going. Doing stuff around the room. So I've got 7 images right now. You can see on the very bottom. Something to remember about Capture One is that all the information about your shooting falls right along the very bottom edge. So if you can't remember what your lens extension was, you can find it right here. Were you shooting at f4? Yes. What was your ISO? If you get well into your shooting and you don't remember what the original settings were, you can always refer back to this. It'll be right here. So this part's great, but now I've done my shooting. I got 7 frames. I want to go on to my capture folder number 2. So I'm going to select on number 2. I'm going to hold down my control key. I'm going to say I want you to set this as my capture folder. But look what happens. If you go to your tethered state, again, every time you do anything in the library, you need to come and look and see what's happening in our setup down here. You will actually see that the sample for the naming, it picked up the fact that I'm going into O2, but you see this is actually now frame number 8. It understands that I've gone to a different folder, but it keeps the frame count the same. I don't want to do that because this would mean my shot number 2 starts at frame number 8. Is this, everybody got something like this? So to fix this, you come up to the very top, the little 3 dots right here, click on this, and you want to reset your capture counter. And you will see this goes back to 001. This thing is live. This thing, you really need to pay attention. It will tell you, it's not just some random sample, it will actually give you the information. So now I'm going to do a bunch more frames here in my O2 folder, in my studio setup. Making art. Okay, so now I've got 7 frames in my O2 part. I'm going to do a couple more just so that you know what's going on. I don't want the same exact number. Okay, so now let's say our director says to you, oh, well, we used the wrong shoes for that shot number 1. You need to redo it, and you need to use the right shoes. And then I would say to them, well, do you want me to throw away all the stuff from the first one? And they'll say, no, just go ahead and add to the first one. So we are going to go back into our library. We are going to hover over 01 again, hold down the control key or right click, say set this is my capture folder. I have got 8 frames in this capture folder. No, I've got 7 frames in this capture folder so far. But when I go back and I look at my tethered naming, it's going to, again, it picks up 01, but it's going to start at frame 10. So this is leaving frame 8 and 9 out. That will drive an art director out of their minds. What were the 2 missing ones? It's only because you didn't set the naming. So instead of resetting this back to 1, because if you set this to 1, it will overwrite the first 7 frames that you did. Instead, you go to the same flyout menu and you say, I want to set the capture counter. And then you would put in 8, because that would be the next frame. And now I pick up from where I left off. I've got, again, 7 frames in here, and my very next frame is frame 8. Does this make sense to everyone, what's going on? So then if we go take a look at this stuff out in the Finder, so again, I'm going to click on my library. I'm going to hold down my control key and click on 01 and say, show me this in the Finder. It'll take me out, and you will see I've got 8 captures in my 01. I've got 9 captures in my 02, and this is how you actually do it. So people say this to me all the time, well, Verser, that looks great for fashion because you're shooting, 20 outfits or that kind of stuff. I shoot weddings. This doesn't apply to me at all. And I say, bullshit. Weddings are even worse because weddings, you really shoot volume. So in weddings, you could make your 01, the morning with the bride getting dressed. In 02, the trip to the church. In 03, the ceremony in the church. In 04, the pictures of the family outside the church afterwards. In 05, getting to the reception. In 06, going on the honeymoon. I mean, you can actually divide your day up, but this way you don't end up with 2,000 files that you just have to start and go through every single time. This brings sense and order. Are there questions about any of this? This is how, so you go in as an assistant or a tech. You build your whole folder structure out in the morning when people are getting sets done, or people are in hair and makeup, or the food stylist is cooking, or whatever's going on, that's when you do all of this work so that you're just ready to go. And then the sorting is already there. I mean, it's this is amazing. Yes. Add what kind of folder?
Like say you need like with the wedding example, there's another like folder behind it. So you can add that later.
I can add it right now. So if I come into here, I can do a new folder, and I'll call it 07. And then I just drag 07 over to my session favorites, and it's at the top. So I want to put it down at the bottom. Just click and drag down. Make this bigger. And then if I want to shoot to it, I just control click and say set as my capture folder. And again, this is going to inherit what's already been shot. So go to your tether, make sure that your naming thing, we need to reset this because this is going to start at frame number 9. And I want to reset it to 1, so it is in my 07 folder. And then you just take off and you do it.
Wait. I thought you said in the next file naming that you shouldn't do that.
Shouldn't do what?
Shouldn't use the custom counter?
No, we got rid of the custom camera counter. We built our own. You should have a destination folder and a 3-digit counter to do this.
But I thought we use the set capture counter and the set capture counter also for the next capture meeting. When you're, when you use those.
So again, you don't want to do it here. You have to look at the name, come to the name, and if you've gone to a new folder, it's going on right now. Right now, you're in 01 and you've got 12 things. You're also shooting Jason. You're not shooting Rob. Okay, so then go back to your library and let's have those traditional podcast folder. And you come back to each other. And you don't have anything in 03 right now. But if you look at your name, and the name right here, it's going to start at frame 12. You don't want that. You want to reset this. So it's not there. It's going to be myself. And reset the counter. So now you're starting at frame 1 in group 3, which is what you want. But now let's say, shoot off here. Frame, so great, you got something. Let's go back to 01. Click on it. You've already got in 01, go down to the very bottom. You've got 11 frames in here. If you say now set it as your capture counter, as your capture folder. And then look at this. So this is now going to go to frame 02. You've already got an 02. You need to change that. No, you don't reset as it goes to 1. You need to go same menu, but you need to set capture counter, and you need to put in frame. You have 11 in here. You need to think about that steps as well. Okay, and then your next frame in this will follow in order. All right, guys. Questions about any of this? We good? Okay, that's going to be it for today. We will deal, I don't know what else we're doing next week, but we will deal with color and capture one for certain next week, and then whatever else. We're sort of like running into each other things, but it'll be good.